So it seems only fitting that since it's November 1st and we're about 26 days away from Small Business Saturday, it's time to look at for ourselves as business owners, how do we formulate a plan and get it put together to be able to have a successful Small Business Saturday? So I want to talk about the focus of how your Small Business Saturday marketing should work. And Tara, you'd mentioned since most of your business is e-commerce, excuse me, this should be really effective for you today, since I advocate ideally for using digital marketing. One, because it's extremely cost effective, but second, because it allows you to super specific target who your customers are. So it's not just throwing out money and budget about your business to everywhere. You're allowed to focus your efforts on the places that you're going to find the people who purchase your products or services. And consumers are seeking products or services near them. And this has been really interesting to see how that statistic has held up through the pandemic in 2020 and now this year. So prior to COVID, approximately 80% of searches on Google for local or for products or services were from customers looking for things specifically in their area. So we knew then that customers were looking to fulfill an immediate need that they had. And that statistic has held true through the pandemic and where into where we are today. Now, with that said, more people are willing to purchase products through a website and have them shipped as they were prior to COVID, but they are still trying to keep the priority on patronizing the businesses in their local community. And at the same time, digital marketing allows you to engage with your existing customers. So these are the people that are going to be most likely to purchase your products or services again after they've already had a great experience. And at the same time, digital marketing creates lasting brand recognition. Excuse me. So, those of us with a longer buying cycle for businesses, it's about being able to reinforce your message of what are you good at? Are you the end all expert in it? Do you really are you passionate about providing it to your customers? Things like that. So you have to consider the long-term brand recognition that you're establishing for your business, not just for Small Business Saturday, but throughout the entire year. So the first thing we're going to talk about in digital online marketing here is your search engine directory listing. So how many of you have picked up your smartphone and searched for a product or service nearby, just by a quick show of hands? So now there's primarily three search engines that all of those searches are accomplished on, regardless of what platform you're using. Google is by far the number one provider of searches. Bing is second, and Apple Maps for those of you who use an iPhone. So these are the three directories that we're going to focus on. Now, it's important to say that for Apple Maps, if you do not have a physical brick and mortar location or an address for your business, you're not able to put it out there. Now, what I mean by that is if you're working out of your home and you don't want to share your home address with people who are looking up your business online, Apple Maps just does not have an option for service area only without a published address. So if you have a physical brick and mortar location that your customers can either visit or a headquarters office that you don't mind being found online, then yes, Apple Maps is for you, and you should definitely fill out that profile listing for your business there. Next, we'll talk about Bing. So Bing is the default search engine for Windows PCs. So if you just purchased a brand new Windows PC today and you used Microsoft Edge to browse the internet, that means that you're using Bing to conduct all of your searches. So make sure you've created your business listing there and that you've updated your business images, your contact information, any special hours that you have coming up. So if you're going to be closed for Thanksgiving, make sure that you've entered in there specifically the holiday that your hours are impacted. At the same time, for Small Business Saturday, if you're opening early and staying open later, make sure you specify that as well, because both Bing and Google will tell the person viewing the search result if your business is open right now. So a good example of that is if you're trying to find something at a local hardware store and you pull up your listing or your listings for hardware stores in the area. If they're getting ready to close soon, it'll actually tell you closes in 25 minutes, 30 minutes. So make sure that if your business hours are different from your regular scheduled hours that you observe, that you're marking it in there. Now, moving on to Google, which is by far the largest of the three search engines we're talking about here, there are a lot of things to unpack inside of that. Just like Apple and Bing, Google offers a basic business listing. There is no cost to do so, but it allows you to take it a step further and you can plug a lot of actions into it. So, in addition to being able to specify the standard information, your phone number, your website, an email address, what your business hours are, any special hours, you can also add tags for the products or services that you provide. You could also add action links. So if you take appointments online, so Jeanette, since as a tax preparer, your customers are able to schedule an appointment through your website, you can plug that link right into your Google business listing. And on the front end, what that shows the customer looking at their Google search result is they can click book appointment and it'll take them exactly to where you have the online calendar set up for them. You can also replicate this action for restaurants. So if you want customers to be able to place an order for pickup or delivery through your Google listing, you can specify that in there. You can also add images and videos of your business. So as human beings, we are visual people. We love to see what the product or service looks like. When we're searching for a local restaurant, we want to see pictures of the delicious food that business can provide. So make sure that you're adding images of your products, your services. So it Tara, for you, since you do handbags and physical goods, make sure that you're sharing out images of those products anywhere that you could stage it into the real life that your customers are likely to be in, perhaps a social gathering since we're coming into the holiday party season. So that would be a good opportunity to take a snapshot of your products with somebody enjoying themselves in that type of environment. Just ways to help the customer visualize how your products and services are going to work for them. Now, it is important to note all three search engines do require verification in some way, shape, or form. So, for example, Google and Bing will send you a postcard in the mail that you have to click with a verify code. So, if your business isn't already on Google and Bing today, you need to start it immediately because it takes about 5 days to get the postcard in the mail. And your business listing will not be visible until you have completed that verification process. Now, for Apple Maps, it's a little different. They can do text or phone verification in most cases and not always subject to receiving a postcard in the mail. Their community seems a lot more admin moderated. So what that means is once you submit your listing to Apple, it's likely going to end up in an Apple employee's queue to look and compare and make sure that that is a legitimate listing that's been added there. So first thing, all around, make sure your directory listings are up to date. Make sure your holiday hours are added in there. Make sure that the next step for your customers is set up on Google, and make sure that you are checking that on a regular basis and keeping it updated. So next, let's talk about your website. So your website is the second place that your prospective customers are likely to land, assuming they've searched for your products or services or your business name, or they found you on social media, which we'll talk about in our next slide here in just a moment. Your goal for all of those outreach activities is to bring the customer into your website, assuming it's not to just get them directly in the door of your business. So those of you without a brick and mortar location, the website really is that next step for all of your customers. So a couple of important things to note: your website has to have SSL now. That SSL stands for Secure Socket Layer. It is an encryption protocol that keeps your visitors' information protected if they were, for example, making a purchase through your website or filling out a contact form. It secures that information from the point of entry for the visitor all the way to you receiving it in the place that you've designated it. So Google does ding websites that do not have SSL now. And earlier this year, Google Chrome by default started warning people when a website was not secure. You'd get that red padlock on the screen telling you the site was insecure. So if you've ever seen that screen, that's likely what's happened, is that your browser by default is telling you now when a website is not secure. Now, how do you recognize if a website is secure? The easiest way to look in the address bar, if you see HTTPS, that is secured. For most browsers, you'll also see something to the effect of a padlock. And if you hover over it or click on it, it would tell you secured, and it will give you some more information about the security settings for that website. So your website absolutely has to have it. At the same time, if you are accepting payment for your products or services through your website, most payment processors now will not function on a website that is not secure. Next, make sure you've connected your website to Google Analytics for traffic reporting. So it's one thing to look at how many people are visiting your website. It's great to see that number continue to grow as you promote your website in more and more places. But what are those visitors doing when they get to your website? Are they actually looking at one page and then moving on to the next page and completing the process of making a purchase or scheduling an appointment? Or are they just looking at one page and leaving? Without effective analytics for your website, you have no way to understand that. And the more that you look at your analytics and study it and look at how that customer journey goes, you could continue to improve your website in a way that speaks to that visitor. You pick up an idea for, they arrive at your homepage. Okay, where do they go next? How can you make your website more intuitive so that it actually takes the visitor through that journey from prospect to customer? Next, if you sell your products online, or if you sell products, you have to be online. This one is pretty self-explanatory. Prior to COVID, online selling was an important component for small businesses to be able to reach a larger audience. But even now today, here in our local community, you're still seeing a lot more people who could just easily walk into a business and purchase those products, doing so through the website. There's a couple of other advantages to talk about here to why selling online is important. You only have specific hours that you could work. Everybody needs to eat, sleep, spend time with family. Your website doesn't. It's always there. Customers can always make a purchase, and that purchase could then be waiting for you to fulfill when you get back into the office the next morning or the next day. So that is an important thing to point out there. It has no established business hours. You're allowing your customers to buy on their terms. And let's be honest, who here has ever sat online at midnight and purchased something? It's just easy to do sometimes. Maybe that's the only time of day that you have to yourself to go and do your shopping. So you have to really put yourself in the shoes of who your customers are and where are they, both in time, in place, and emotional mindset when they go to make the purchase. So you have to have your products available on your website. Next, make sure your website is optimized for fast loading. So if you are using a lot of images and video on your website, you need to have a content distribution network configured. For example, Jetpack if you're using WordPress. What that does is those images technically load on a separate server than the server of your website. The easiest way for anyone to recognize it without any real technical understanding is that if, as you scroll down the page, you'll see images load as you scroll. Most content distribution networks will serve images as the customer's viewing them. The text to the website loads pretty quick. The images follow shortly after. That's a usual pretty good sign that that website is using some kind of content distribution. And so it's especially important for those of you selling products on your website where where each product may have 5 or more images just to show all of the cool things about that product. So make sure that you're using some kind of content distribution and that your web hosting has enough resources to be able to accommodate many people visiting your website at the same time. What I'm saying there is if you notice that as your traffic increases on your website and your load time starts to decrease, it could be a sign that the web host that you're using is either limiting your bandwidth access to your website or that the server that your website is hosted on is just overloaded. So that is a question you should definitely ask your web developer if you notice your website is starting to lag. For each additional second it takes to load your web page, that's an additional opportunity for your potential customers to leave your website and go somewhere else. We've all seen it when a page doesn't load, the frantic pulling down to refresh the page. And after so many refreshes, if it just isn't loading, we give up and go somewhere else. That's what is happening to potential customers if your website is too slow. So, on a regular basis, just view through parts of your site, make sure that things are loading correctly. Now, please do not confuse internet connectivity issues with website performance. If you consistently notice a performance issue in your website when you're connecting from your office versus at home, it might be because of your internet access. So just keep that in mind that if your website loads slow in one place but not another, it's likely internet access issues, not the website alone. So test in multiple places. If you sit down to coffee sometime and connect to the Wi-Fi there, pull up your website. At least here in central Indiana, Starbucks Wi-Fi is pretty good. So if your website is reasonably fast, it should connect well there. Also, if you have a high-speed internet connection in your home, I know most places here in the Indy area now at least offer 100 megabit internet service just about in all of Marion County now, and that is usually plenty sufficient to test and make sure that your website is performing up to its best potential. So next, let's talk about social media. So I briefly mentioned a few moments ago before we talked about the website why we need to focus on bringing people into it. So social media is one of those additional ways that we're driving traffic into our website. Let's see here. So when it comes to looking at which social media networks you should be participating in, you should look at the 2 to 3 that have the highest saturation of your ideal prospects. Great example here. Instagram is especially popular with younger female consumers, not necessarily those over 40 or 50. Facebook, for example, is the highest saturation of just about all consumer groups. So they have the majority of everybody from ages 18 all the way through 65 plus. LinkedIn is an exceptional network for those trying to build their professional career. So you see a lot of people with above average education, above average income, things like that. So look at the demographics of each social media network out there and just choose the 2 to 3 that have the most of your ideal prospects. I'll throw another one out there. It is Pinterest. Pinterest is an exceptional social media network for product focused and art centered businesses because it's images, it allows users to pin those things to their own boards. It is just an excellent way to keep your content out there in front of people pretty much indefinitely. Also, for those 2 to 3 social media networks that you're on, make sure that you have the same username on all of them. So, for example, Facebook.com/Inspire Small Biz, Twitter.com/Inspire Small Biz, anywhere that you're online, make sure that you have the same username. It will make it much cleaner to be able to advertise your social media networks on something like a business card, because then you could use something like the @ symbol and then your username rather than having to duplicate it for each network. Also, by default, Facebook's username system is really messy. You'll get one word dash, second word dash, third word dash, weird sequence of numbers. Nobody's going to remember that URL. So make sure when you get your profile set up on Facebook that you choose your username right away, but make sure that that same username is available on every network that you are on before you start changing it. So it just makes it a lot easier to promote your social media. Also, make sure that your contact information and bio and your graphics are consistent across every platform. For example, here YouTube, Facebook, uh, LinkedIn, they all have cover images, but none of them are the same dimensions. They all have their own kind of crazy size that is an ideal fit for each of those networks. So this is where it's really worth a little bit of time in graphic design to make sure that you're designing an image that meets those specs criteria. So let's say, for example, if you've put your logo in the cover image that you're using, if you're using the correct specs of that image, it means that your logo will show up exactly where you want it once it's loaded to your website. Now, a good example of how to do that is YouTube. YouTube has by far the largest cover image size specs of any of the networks out there. However, most people are only going to see about the middle 5 to 10% of the image. So you want to make sure that when you sit down to create that image, that if you're putting your logo in there so that it looks the same as your Facebook page, actually look at what the safe area is going to be for the average user. And in any of those networks that show additional pixels beyond width or height of the other networks, that you're filling it in with space that looks consistent to each different network. Next, you can look at automating your content. So once your information's there and your graphics are straightened out, you can connect an automation app such as Hootsuite, If This Then That, or Social Pilot, so that you can schedule your content well in advance. So come Wednesday afternoon at 2 p.m. when your customers are active on social media, you're not having to drop everything and go share a post to them. You could sit down at a time that fits your calendar and put those posts in there to post at the time you want them to go out later on. Other good examples of automation is if your website is built on WordPress and you blog frequently, you can hook that up to automatically share your blog posts out as well, which takes an additional few minutes out of your day that you don't have to give to putting your content out there. So next, let's talk about email marketing. So email marketing is by far the highest return on investment of just about any of the digital marketing methods out there. So yes, anyone could pay for Google ads or Facebook ads, but there's really no guarantee that you're actually building any kind of meaningful connection with visitors. Versus email marketing, by the time you have their email address, they're either already a customer or they're well on their way to becoming a customer. So you have to use email to keep your existing customers coming back, and you can do that by sharing news, updates, special offers, because returning customers are always the easiest group that you're going to have to market to. They have a real life experience of how good your product or service is, how you're going to provide them exceptional service to make sure that they leave your business happy. So they're easiest to convince to come back and purchase from you again. And to rather than having to spend budget on marketing to win them over again, you could use a slight incentive to bring them back sooner. So, for example, a birthday offer that could provide a special discount to them, letting people know today that your Small Business Saturday offer is coming up. If you haven't seen a regular customer in a while, you can send them a "We Miss You" discount. Just ways that can bring those people back to your business because they've already completed that journey once. There's always that potential to get them to do it again. Next, you want to make sure that your email marketing and your website are connected to one another. The reason you want to do that is to make sure that you're thanking your customers for purchasing your products, also that you're asking them for reviews after they've purchased your products or services. So once they purchase the product, set it up to send an immediate thank you, and then about 2 weeks later, send an additional email asking them to review the product because now they've hopefully received it and have had enough time to sit down and get to know the product and find out anything they wanted to know. So, and customers aren't likely to leave a review unless you ask them. So make sure you're asking people who have had a good experience to leave that review. It is very important to note you never, ever, under any circumstances, want to buy emails. One, it's just really, really bad ethics. But at the same time, there's no guarantee, one, that those emails are even any good coming out the gate. I'll share a story with you. I have a client who a few years ago purchased 10,000 emails from a company that says they sell email lists. We tested their campaign. 65% of those emails were crap out of the gate. They bounced. They did not go anywhere. It ended up getting his domain flagged with all the email providers as spam. It was just a nightmare dealing with the fallout there. So it's just easier. Don't spend the money to do it. It's never going to result in a good positive move for your business. There's just nothing to accomplish it. If you're determined to spend money on email marketing, I just highly recommend paying for an advanced plan of one of the established email marketing providers. For example, MailChimp, if you're just getting started. It would allow you some additional flexibility, which would allow you to build more intelligent campaigns to the emails from people that you know and have done business with you or have expressed interest. Now, that's not to say that you attend a networking event and you meet some really cool people. If you ask them, is it okay if I put you in my email list? And they tell you yes, then absolutely. Put their email address in it because it's someone that you've met, that you've connected with, and they're going to recognize your name when they see it pop up in their inbox. So just consider it. That's one of the biggest reasons why emailing strangers is never effective because they don't recognize your name. And what do they do when they don't recognize? They either delete it without opening it or marking it as spam. And coming back to the spam issue, once your email domain or email address gets flagged as spam by the email providers, it's almost impossible to get it out of that hole. Um, excuse me. So, Gmail, Hotmail, God forbid AOL and Yahoo, if anyone's still using those platforms, all of them keep a database because they have millions of accounts hosted there of patterns of which email addresses are sending tons of email to their customers. So if they notice that you're sending a large quantity of emails to a lot of addresses that they don't frequently see other communication with, they're more likely to flag it as spam. And that's how you get your message lost in someone's promotions folder, or just a subscriber never becomes active. That might be why. And next, you have to respect every single unsubscribe request that you get. You can actually get in a lot of trouble legally if you do not. So under US law, every email that you send out through an email marketing system must include your business name, your address, and an unsubscribe link. That unsubscribe link, if you're using MailChimp, Constant Contact, or any of the other platforms, takes care of that pretty well for you out of the box. You put the link in the email, and the software is able to register, hey, this email address is opted out, and it will prevent you from sending further email messages to that person. So just make sure that when you switch over from one platform to another, so let's say 2 years from now you decide to change which email marketing service you're using, make sure that you keep those unsubscribed emails excuse me, and load them into the new system as unsubscribed contacts, because that's your only way to make sure that you're not sending emails to someone who's expressed that they do not want them from you anymore. And a contact unsubscribing is not the end of the world. So many people worry that when contacts unsubscribe from their email list that their email marketing just isn't working. Think of it this way. They've just given you a definitive answer. So that means that you can spend your time, energy, efforts, and future ideas on people who are still interested in your products or services. So an unsubscribed email contact is the modern day equivalent to cold calling a contact, them declining your offer of products or services. It just means move on to the next person. Don't let it be personal against yourself for having someone unsubscribed. It just means they gave you a definitive answer that you no longer have to waste your efforts. So next, let's talk about how to get your small business Saturday offer out there early. So we've talked about the digital components for promoting your business. So I want to point out most large retailers leak their small business Saturday offers out early. Since today's November 1st, we're going to start seeing a lot of junk hit our mailboxes, both the USPS and our email, about who's offering the best price on a TV or a blender or a microwave this year. So why can't your business do the same thing for the products or services you provide? You have to plan in advance to know what your sale is going to be. So put the word out early. That allows you to stay on top of mind, because people are starting to look at now who they're buying what for this holiday season. So if you put the word out early that your products or services are going to be at an incredible price for Small Business Saturday, that means they could put it in their list. And it's one of the few times in the year that the average customer really does any long-term strategy with their shopping plans. They have a plan too. They know who they're buying what for, and come the day that the sale starts, they're going to immediately take action on it. So make sure that you're using every available channel to you, your email, your social, your online directory listings, and your website, to advertise what those offers are and when it begins. Now, it's also important to say that Small Business Saturday is just one day. But that doesn't mean that you can't start your special even earlier than that. So if you wanted to, you could start Black Friday, you could start Thanksgiving Day. It is completely up to you as the owner of your business to determine when that sale starts. Now, one of the cases for starting your Small Business Saturday sale early is that it allows you to compete with the larger retailers that typically begin their promotions on Friday or Thanksgiving Day itself. And once again, make sure you're giving your best customers the earliest access to it. So the people that buy from your business over and over again, make sure that they know first before anyone else what that offer is, and even maybe a narrow window that they could claim it before the rest of the general public. That creates an element of exclusivity between the customer and your business, which helps form an even stronger bond that customer has with your brand, which will continue to build into more sales over time, since business is always about the long-term game. It's not just about what you can do for your customers today. It's how can you continue to add value for them over a long period of time. So, Jeanette, I'll use you as an example here again. Most of your business is seasonal, but there's still opportunity throughout the year to add additional value, because maybe when you prepare their taxes, you notice that their business records weren't as clean as they could be. So that's an opportunity to offer help with QuickBooks and getting them trained on using a system so that when they come see you next year, everything's in a neat list and it makes your job easier, and it just even further builds that great expectation that your customers have in doing business with you. And also, if you sell gift cards, this is the best time of year to advertise it, because maybe the person buying the gift doesn't know the exact taste of the person they're buying the gift for, but they know that they would love your product. So if you sell gift cards, make sure you're advertising it. So let's talk about the holidays that are coming up here. So this is a quick rundown of the 2021 holiday shopping season. Thanksgiving is November 26th or November 25th, excuse me. Black Friday, so the day that we see on YouTube of people crowding into the front doors of the electronics store, that is Friday, November 26th. Small Business Saturday is the 27th of November. Cyber Monday, which has become increasingly popular over the last decade, is Monday, November 29th. And November 30th is Giving Tuesday. So the Tuesday following Thanksgiving is the day now that traditionally nonprofits get in there and they want to get in on the holiday shopping season as well. So for those of you who are involved with a nonprofit or trying to get your nonprofit started, this is the holiday that you want to look at where you can share your mission of what your organization does and make an open request for donations. We are coming near the end of the calendar year, so that is a good opportunity to remind your potential donors if you have tax deductible status. So I believe, and Jeanette, back me up on that, if you're 501c3, I think is what makes donations tax deductible. Is that correct? Okay. So make sure that you're advertising that out there. And then Christmas Eve is Friday, December 24th. So that makes Christmas Day this year on a Saturday. So these are the holidays that are really widely observed going into the holiday shopping season. It is by no means a complete list of all the holidays going on. So many of the practiced religions in the United States have holidays coming up through the next couple of months. So look at those as well, especially if you notice that you have a majority or a large percentage of your customers who observe it, because that's also an opportunity for you there to get involved and just make them feel like you're marketing directly to them in a message that would connect with them as well. So, with that, if you're confused about how to build your small business strategy for the holiday shopping season, I'm offering a free 30-minute strategy call with you to hash out what you should offer for Small Business Saturday, as well as putting a framework together on how you can get that message out there to your customers. If you have a pen handy, it's OII.FYI/3LI. Go to that link and you can book a free 30-minute call. We'll meet over Zoom, so you do not have to be in central Indiana. You could be anywhere you'd like. And I'd like to announce this morning a new collaboration where we will be teaming up with Whiteboard Learning, H7 Networking, and TTR Networking to do something called Small Business Saturday Live. So starting at 1 o'clock p.m. on Small Business Saturday, that's November 27th, we're getting on Facebook Live and interviewing small business owners to share their specials and sales with you. So if you'd like to watch that live, make sure you like InspireSmall.biz on Facebook. And I am happy now to answer any questions that anyone has here. I know we're coming up close on the end of our meeting.
I have a question.
Yes.
You talked about Yahoo, and I am on Yahoo platform, and about 6 months ago, somebody managed to replicate my email address. So every once in a while, I get an ugly advertisement from myself. Now, if I put that into spam, is that going to adversely affect my email account?
It should not, know, because on the back end of that, being able to replicate someone else's email address means that something like the IP address of the computer sending the email is taken into account.
Okay.
There are a lot of use cases of someone spoofing your own email address. I assume it's something like, I watch your webcam while you do unspeakable things at your computer, and if you don't send me Bitcoin, I'm going to share the pictures.
Yeah, most of them are for enhancement products.
So we definitely know it's spam, but no, flagging it as spam is not going to hurt you.
Okay.
Now, I will say that with Yahoo and AOL as email providers are lacking in a lot of the security features that even Gmail offers. So, as a long term plan, I would say look at abandoning Yahoo eventually.
Okay, well, this is my personal email. Of course, my business email is on Gmail. So, but I've had this particular email address for well over 10 years. And just about everybody I know has my email address. So, how complicated is it to create a new one or to move everything to a new platform?
So it's as easy as creating the new email account that you're going to use. So, for example, set up your new personal Gmail. Now, you can connect Yahoo into Gmail and allow it to receive those messages. So, when somebody emails your Yahoo email, you can make it forward to your Gmail inbox. But when you go to do that, change your password to something incredibly complicated that you're never going to remember off the top of your head.
Okay.
Now, on the Yahoo side, once you do that part, you just set up an auto forwarder or an auto responder. So I assume you have people saved in your address book or your contacts on Yahoo that you email frequently.
Yes.
So what you do is you set up an autoresponder that if they're in your contacts, that it automatically sends them back an email. Hi Ryan, I'm using Peterson at gmail.com now. Please update your address book. That way it sends a message back to everyone that you know who is going to email you. And at the same time, it gets you to where you're not checking on the spam in your Yahoo, and Google does a little overall better job of prioritizing and separating stuff out where you may still see an email like that, but it's way less frequent.
Okay. Now, they have diminished in quantity over the last couple of months because I don't know why, but um, I can only assume maybe some of them actually go to spam without me ever seeing them.
Yeah. Yeah, and a lot of that comes if they say, for example, oh, this email address is usually working from Indianapolis, and now they see someone who's pretending to be you but in India, it's pretty easy for it to go, well, that's junk.
Okay. Well, I have all my utilities and bank notices on that particular email. So I would have to go into each of those sites and change edit the email. Okay.
Yes,
All right. Thank you.
you're welcome. Any other questions?
Yes, I had a question. So you said for email marketing, you had to have the business address and the unsubscribe link. Um, Mandatory. How do you get the unsubscribe link? Like, do you automatically put it on there manually or?
So it depends on which email platform you're using. Let's say, for example, MailChimp, because it offers a free plan for someone who's just trying to get their email marketing set up and ready to go. MailChimp's template builder has a way for you to put in the tag for your unsubscribe link because it will be different for each subscriber since it wants to make sure that you've unsubscribed rather than Jeanette or vice versa. So just make sure when you're building the template, you'll see a merge tag, which is the template's way of saying it's going to change from contact to contact, but the info's the same. Just make sure that that tag is put in the email message, and MailChimp will remind you and prevent you from saving the template until you've actually got that included.
Okay. Nice. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I have a question.
Yes.
So I kind of took off of my business like this whole year. I was like really active for 2019 and 20, but 21, just a lot of different things happened. But I still have my email list, but I have only sent one email throughout the entire of 2021. So I'm wondering if you have any suggestions, or maybe I should just do the call thing with you of like how to sort of re-engage my following on social media and in my email marketing.
So since it's a list you've already contacted before, if you just resumed with a welcome back or a hi, I'm back email, you will probably notice more bounced emails than a regular campaign, especially if you had people's business emails tied to there. However, because you still have a record of emailing those contacts before from your domain, it's not likely to be the end of world catastrophic thing that buying a list would be.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
You're welcome. Are there any other questions? All right. Well, if there are not any other questions, we ran a couple of minutes over, so I apologize for that. But hopefully, everyone here today was able to walk away with something useful that you can use for your business right away.